Hello, welcome back for another ReZero episode review, obviously episode 9, and just initial thoughts on the episode. I do have to say that this was a really good episode. Every episode from here on out will be nothing but bangers each and every week. The information that we got in this episode was great, and seeing all the witches animated, some would say is a dream come true. Also the end credit scene with Roswell, man, that's why he's the GOAT. But so much happened in this episode that I want to talk about, and so let's break it down. As always, picking the 3 major moments from this episode and talking about them. I also have one minor moment to talk about from the beginning of the episode. The 3 major moments are the witches, Satella, and Roswell in credits, while the minor one is the lore of Return by Death. With all that being said, let's get into the topics at hand. First one I want to start off with is the minor one, talking about the lore of Return by Death. This takes place right after Subaru has finally been able to release himself of the stress, pain, and anxiety from Return by Death. He casually talks and speaks to Ekidona about the situation of Return by Death. So first off, I want to say that this Subaru that we're about to get is my favorite psychological or mental version of Subaru. I don't want to speak too much on it because of spoilers, but as you can see with the context of what he spoke to Ekidona about, you can tell that this Subaru is finna be a monster. So I can't wait for that. What they discussed is something I feel not a lot of people talked about in terms of the ReZero anime community, especially when you look at the anime only spectrum. A lot of people were mostly filled with the awe and shock about the other events that transpired during the episode. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here focusing more on the fact that Subaru asked the question about the limits of Return by Death. The reason I found this information so interesting and important is because I never thought about it before. And let me explain what I mean by this. So of course the thought of how many times Subaru can die has had a quick and brief flash in my head. I never put too much stock behind how many times Subaru can kill himself because there was no need to. I was and am under the impression that he already had unlimited lives because there's no way Teppei, ReZero's author, would take away the main gimmick that makes his show so great. You put Subaru in these wild, ridiculous situations for him to be killed, and the one time he gets killed, he stays dead. Now the story is over. That's not possible. So I never thought it would happen. But what I like so much about this moment is the fact that they asked and answered what some would say is a useless question. But for me, it isn't about the usefulness of the question, but about the fact that they even talked about something that some would think there's no reason to talk about. With this question, this pushes Subaru to become a better form of himself. And I like the self-awareness to think and ask this question. As I said, it gives Subaru, Ekidona, and just the world in general a bit more self-awareness and their understanding of who they are within the actual series. And it shows that they aren't extremely incompetent. This part isn't something many talk about, but I really liked it. Let's move on though to the first major topic, which is the witches. So we finally got a chance to see the other witches of Sin, Typhon, Minerva, and Daphne. Before Ekidona switched out to put in Daphne, she warned Subaru not to look, touch, or do anything with Daphne besides ask questions. With that in mind, she switched out and the Lolly Witch appeared. You are supposed to think that this is Daphne, but in fact it is the Witch of Pride, Typhon. My personal thoughts on Typhon's portrayal in the anime I thought was great. Because of this, she was able to push up my list of my favorite witches. So that's always something good. Now when it comes to Subaru touching Typhon, I was not expecting it to look like that. I was expecting to see a lot more blood and gore and did not expect to see him in pieces the way that it was done. I thought once again that White Fox was going to go all out with the gore and blood when it comes to Subaru breaking apart. I guess not, which is a great thing because it would have been kind of disgusting to see blood and guts all over the floor and ground, especially in the way that it was done. It would look horrible. So I'm a bit disappointed, but at the same time I'm kind of glad because I think that would have been a very horrible sight to look at. Up next is our second witch, the Witch of Wrath, Minerva. And as a Minerva fan, because she is, or should I say was, my favorite witch, I don't know how I feel about her introduction. When it comes to her introduction, I don't know what about it makes me dislike it, and I guess you could say dislike her as well. The feeling I get from seeing Minerva is so complicated that it's really hard to put into words. Yesterday during our episode discussion, someone had said they didn't like the heart effects of Minerva when she began punching Subaru and when she came in, and I absolutely felt the same way. I don't know what it is, but I really did not like it. I don't like her voice, but it's such a hard feeling and emotion to convey into words. It was really hard for me to explain to you all why I don't like Minerva. But when it comes to Minerva from the novels, I actually really like Minerva, and she's still my favorite witch if I'm using my novel bias and novel information, because I really liked her in that medium. But when I listen to the anime and watch the way she moves, she talks, she just interacts, I am not a fan, and I don't particularly know why. I know a lot of people gonna hate me for this, cause I know Minerva is basically, other than Ekidona, she's the fan favorite witch. But hey, I still like Minerva. But when it comes to anime Minerva, yikes. The last witch though to talk about is of course the Witch of Gluttony, Daphne. First thing I want to say is I am disappointed that they cut out 2 bits of content. First one I'm not mad about because it's from the web novel, so it's whatever if they did not make it into the light novel. And that is Daphne using her authority to make Subaru eat his hand. I'm not really mad about this, just a bit disappointed, but it is what it is there. However, the second thing is what I'm a bit upset about, and that is the dialogue that was cut with Daphne explaining to Subaru the idea of gluttony. It is one of my favorite lines. Daphne essentially told Subaru that gluttony is the worst sin, much like every other sin, greed, wrath, pride, lust, etc, etc. None of them can directly kill you, it is only gluttony. The reason I like this line so much is just because, as I said with the minor topic, it's something that is quite obvious, but I never thought about before. Never put my mind on it, that gluttony is really the only sin that can kill you. And the way she described the insufferable hunger, I just wish they added that bit of context to help out with the characterization of Daphne. But it is what it is there, of course. Other than that, I love Daphne. Her portrayal was great. The voice acting I really enjoyed. Also, the lore of the 3 mob beasts was interesting. They talked about the white whale, the great rabbit, and the black serpent, which we have only seen 2 of 3 within the main story. However, we have seen the black serpent, but we haven't technically seen the black serpent, but we've seen the black serpent venom. Is when you look at the Frozen Bonds movie, they had the black serpent venom in there, and it played a semi big role ish kind of towards the end of the movie. And the reason that the venom is so important is because the venom is actually sort of sentient. It's sort of like a sentient moving liquid, I guess I can say. So if you want to see the black serpent or its venom, you can go look at the Frozen Bonds movie and see the way it acts and interacts. Now let's talk about the second major topic, that is Satella. Subaru has awakened from the trials to find no Amelia in sight. He walks about the tomb to see a sea of shadows, then suddenly, boom, a dark shadow appears and Satella closes in on him. So for the people in my discussion stream, they said that hearing Satella was weird, in a good way by the way, just because of the way it sounded. I didn't really get what they meant, and they said you have to have on headphones to get the full effect. I watched the episode on my phone because I woke up late for the stream, and because I had to watch it on my phone instead of my computer at the time. But when I heard Satella's voice, I was thinking, okay, it's alright. I get what they're going for. It's trying to make it seem extremely creepy. But it wasn't until I rewatched the episode and heard her say I love you so many times, especially with the headphones on now, that's when I felt the true uneasiness of Satella, especially with the final I love you. It felt as if she was hugging you right from behind, whispering into your ear. It felt so creepy listening to it with headphones. She's just right there saying I love you. I was like, oh, okay. It's a bit weird, but I like it. I really enjoyed all the Satella part. The way it was adapted I thought was great, so I had no problems there. Last part I want to talk about is, of course, Roswaal, and Roswaal's the GOAT. That's it. He's the GOAT. He's a king. He's a Chad to the highest level. In the end credits, we see how calm he is being taken in by the shadows, and before the shadows fully overtake Roswaal, we see him reveal that he has a gospel hidden under his pillow, and then at the very end he reveals that he knows about Subaru's return by death. And so I can't wait for next episode. I can't wait for actually pretty much where we're at currently with this season. Every episode's gonna be non-stop, like 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10s, high 8s out of 10s. Like the season is getting to where I wanted it to be this entire time, because I knew the beginning of the season was going to be very, very slow. But now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. So now I'm itching for more episodes, even though I already know what's going to happen. But I can only imagine how anime only must feel waiting each and every week for every episode. But that's it for the review. I hope you all have enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Link is in the description below. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.